In the vast, silent theatre of the ocean, most lives follow a simple script: birth, growth, reproduction, and then the final curtain. But what if an actor could, when the play goes wrong, simply walk off stage, shed its costume, and re-emerge as a child to start the story all over again? There is a creature, almost invisibly small, that does exactly this. It has found a way to cheat the arrow of time, not by pausing, but by hitting rewind. Meet Turritopsis dohrnii, a tiny hydrozoan jellyfish with a nickname that grabs headlines: the Immortal Jellyfish. It's no sea monster. It is a ghost in the water column, a transparent thimble smaller than your pinky nail, fringed with a halo of hair-fine tentacles. It's so delicate it's often overlooked in plankton samples, a marvel of evolution hiding in plain sight. But when the world turns against it, when food vanishes, or the water chemistry shifts into hostile territory, this tiny creature performs its astonishing trick. The adult medusa doesn't just wither and die, it actively chooses to de-age. It dismantles its adult body cell by cell and reverts to its earliest stage of life to begin anew. It's not just healing, it's a full biological reset. The adult bell measures a mere 3 to 5 millimeters across. You could fit a small fleet of them on a single coin. As juveniles, they start with a sparse crown of about 8 tentacles. But as they mature, that fringe can fill out to 60 or even 90 delicate strands. Originally described from the warm waters of the Mediterranean, Turritopsis dohrnii is now a global citizen. It's been found in the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Caribbean, a silent stowaway that likely caught rides across oceans in the ballast water of cargo ships. To truly appreciate how strange this is, we need to understand the standard life of a hydrozoan. Most of them live a double life, split between two completely different forms. The first is the polyp. Picture a tiny plant-like stalk rooted to a surface like a rock, a pier piling, or even a crab shell. This polyp colony is the stationary phase, a tiny city of interconnected clones, budding and feeding. Its job is to build. And what it builds are medusae. These are the free-swimming jellyfish we all recognize, tiny bells pulsing through the water. The medusae are the explorers, the travelers. Their mission is to spread, to reproduce sexually, and to send the next generation out into the world. Fertilized eggs become larvae, which swim until they find a new place to settle, where they transform into polyps, starting a new colony. The arrow of life points in one direction, from the rooted polyp to the drifting medusa. It's a one-way street. Except for Turritopsis dohrnii, it takes that one-way street and turns it into a roundabout. The adult medusa, the final stage for most, can choose to go backward, breaking one of the most fundamental rules in biology. So, what triggers this radical transformation? Stress. A sudden shock to its system, starvation, a sharp change in water temperature or salinity, or even physical injury from a predator. When the conditions for adult life become impossible, the jellyfish initiates its escape plan. The graceful pulsing stops. The dozens of delicate tentacles, once used for hunting, retract and are absorbed back into the body. The bell itself, that perfect little dome of jelly, begins to sag and fold inward, losing its intricate structure. The entire animal sinks through the water, no longer a swimmer but a passive blob of living tissue. It settles on the seafloor as a cyst, a disorganized, gelatinous sphere that looks for all the world like cellular debris. It is alive, but dormant, a body in complete systemic shutdown. But inside this quiet blob, a revolution is underway. Over the next few days, that seemingly lifeless blob begins to reorganize. It extends a thin, root-like runner across the surface called a stolon. From this runner, new life sprouts. Tiny buds emerge, each one developing into a new polyp, the stationary juvenile form. A single collapsed adult has become the seed for an entire new colony. It hasn't just survived, it has reset and multiplied. Give this new colony time and good conditions, and it will do what all polyp colonies do. It will start budding off brand new, free-swimming medusae. These new jellyfish are genetically identical to the adult that collapsed. In laboratory tanks, the entire process is a slow-motion miracle. Within a day of being starved, an adult can become a blob. A few days later, the first polyps appear. Weeks after that, a new generation of juvenile jellyfish is released, ready to try life again. Quick pause. If you find this kind of biological rule bending as fascinating as we do, please consider subscribing to Faunary. We explore the world's strangest survival strategies every week. How is this even possible? The biological mechanism behind this is a process called transdifferentiation. It's one of the holy grails of cell biology. Most complex animals, including us, rely on stem cells for major repairs. Stem cells are like blank slates, unspecialized cells that can become any type of cell the body needs. But Turritopsis does something even stranger. It takes cells that are already specialized, a muscle cell from the bell, a nerve cell from its neural net, a stinging cell from a tentacle, and convinces them to forget their old jobs and learn entirely new ones. A muscle cell doesn't just make more muscle, it can become a skin cell. A nerve cell can become part of a budding polyp. It's the cellular equivalent of a master carpenter suddenly becoming a master electrician without ever going back to trade school. It's a direct peer-to-peer transformation, a feat of biological reprogramming that is breathtaking in its efficiency. It's not just healing, it is a complete systemic reinvention. So what's going on in its DNA? In 2022, a landmark study compared the genome of Turritopsis dohrnii with that of a close relative, Turritopsis rubra, which cannot perform this incredible reversal. They weren't looking for a single immortality gene. Instead, they found a systems upgrade, a whole suite of genetic enhancements that work in concert. First, they found an expanded toolkit for DNA repair. Think about what aging is at a cellular level. It's often an accumulation of damage, tiny errors and breaks in our DNA that build up over a lifetime. Turritopsis dohrnii is packed with extra copies of genes that act like elite mechanics, constantly patching up its genetic blueprint before flaws can become permanent. Then there are the telomeres. These are the protective caps on the ends of our chromosomes, like the plastic tips on a shoelace. Every time a cell divides, these caps get a little shorter. When they're too short, the cell stops dividing and enters old age. The immortal jellyfish showed enhanced genetic pathways for maintaining and even rebuilding these telomeres. It doesn't just slow down the fraying of its genetic shoelaces, it seems capable of re-tipping them, resetting the clock on how many times its cells can divide. Finally, the researchers saw a wealth of activity in genes that regulate how cells decide what to be. This is the genetic machinery that orchestrates the miracle of transdifferentiation. It's a network of tweaks that protect DNA, preserve cellular youth, and give the jellyfish masterful control over its own body plan. It's not a magic bullet, it's a finely tuned orchestra playing the symphony of rejuvenation. Of course, immortal is just shorthand. These jellyfish are still very much mortal. They can be eaten by fish or other predators. They can get sick. An environment can turn so hostile so fast that they have no time to transform. The reset button is a powerful tool against aging and poor conditions, but it doesn't make them invincible. In the ocean, a creature this small is always vulnerable. Furthermore, while the process is repeatable and reliable in the lab, we still don't know how often it happens in the wild. The ocean is vast and chaotic, and tracking a single 5mm animal for its entire life to see if it reverts is an almost impossible task. For now, its wildlife remains largely a mystery. But here's where the strategy becomes even more brilliant. The reset doesn't just save one individual, it amplifies its genetic legacy. A single, failing adult medusa doesn't just become one new medusa. It becomes a polyp colony that can then bud off dozens, even hundreds, of new, genetically identical medusae over time. A moment of individual crisis is turned into a population boom. One life becomes a shower of clones. This may be the secret to its success as a global traveler. A single jellyfish, flushed from a ship's ballast tank into a new stressful harbor, doesn't have to find a mate. It can just collapse, form a colony on a dock piling or a discarded shell, and seed the new environment with an army of its own clones. It's the ultimate pioneer. So we are left with this tiny, translucent animal, a creature smaller than a fingernail, that carries within its simple body one of the most profound secrets in nature. It reminds us that the rules we take for granted, that life moves in one direction, that aging is inevitable, are just one set of solutions. Evolution, in its endless, quiet tinkering, has found other ways. It has found a way not to conquer death, but to simply step around it, by embracing the profound power of a new beginning. If this kind of quiet, rule-bending life delights you, stick around. Subscribe to Faunary and drop a like if you enjoyed this journey. There are more strange survivors and hidden marvels waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.